Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Roberto Corona. I am an Italian anthroposopher and astrologer, and in this video we'll talk about the next full moon in Aquarius of August 19, a moon that features not one but two T-square configurations in the chart, and which for this reason, let's face it, it is going to bring us an extraordinary level of tension which will be challenging us during the last part of the month. Now with this moon, we are also getting ready to leave the Leo atmosphere to enter that of Virgo, which represents the last third of the summer season. So this is the chart of the full moon, and this time there are a few news in the sky. On August 15, Mercury, which as we know is still retrograde, got back to Leo. And you can see it in the chart. It is in close conjunction here with the Sun. Right? Venus, on the other hand, on August 5 entered Virgo, and she is now in opposition to Saturn. Here we go. Now this is a full moon, and with this process we reach the peak of the manifestation of the etheric forces of the Earth, meaning that this moon represents the manifestation of the process that began with the new moon in Leo on August 4. So this is a moment of retrospect, of reviewing the past 2 weeks as the light is shed in the darkness of the night. So this means that it is a good moment for also awakening, and as we will see, it is not a pleasant awakening due to the two T-squares configuration. Now on the positive side, at least this is good time for awareness, revelations, liberation, but also release and purification. So let's take a look at the chart. The moon is located at 2715 Aquarius here, and as you can see, it is in the starry image of Aquarius, the constellation. Now, the moon is forming a T-square with the Sun, which is at 27 Leo, right? This is the opposition. And with Uranus, the modern ruler of Aquarius. So this is important. And as we know, Uranus is at 27 degrees Taurus, still sitting on the evil star Algol. So we discussed that in the previous video. So this is a very intense T-square because as you can see, it involves the fixed signs. And as if that wasn't enough, the Sun is in conjunction with Mercury retrograde. So Mercury retrograde is activating the T-square as well. So let's take a look at Saturn. Why Saturn? Because Saturn is the lord of Aquarius. So the moon is ruled by Saturn, the ancient ruler of Aquarius. And as we know, Saturn is in Pisces, and Saturn too is part of a T-square configuration, right? But this time it involves planets' immutable signs, which mean that in general this is a softer T-square. So first of all, we have Jupiter and Mars down here. They are in Gemini and they are still in conjunction. So we talked about this conjunction in detail in the previous video of the new moon in Leo. So check that out, because I described there also this strong Michael impulse that we had back in that chart, and this is important for later consideration. And then in this T-square, we also find Venus in Virgo, and how is she going? So this Venus is very, very debilitated, because not only Venus in Virgo is in fall, of course, but she's also besieged by the malefics. So this means that she's going from an opposition with Saturn, which is bad, obviously, to a square with Mars. So not a very good position for Venus. So as you can see, the chart features two T-squares, and we can expect for this reason many challenges for late August. So let's now tackle the meanings of the chart, starting as always from the physical meanings. Now this is a new moon in Aquarius, which is all about revelations, clarifications, leading also towards change because Aquarius is big when it comes to changes. And given the square with Uranus, the modern ruler of Aquarius down here, right, we can expect these changes to be sudden, if not even revolutionary. And this means that we can have very strong public confrontations, up to protests and riots, right? This is also because Mercury, again, Mercury is still retrograde. And on top of that, it is combusted by the sun, meaning that it doesn't favor dialogue at all, but it rather leads us quite easily towards miscommunication, misunderstandings. So you can find my video about Mercury retrograde down below in the description box if you want to learn more about it, but this of course is not good, right? Now, what about Saturn? So we already discussed about the square that Saturn is making down here with planet Jupiter. Now, this can lead to mistrust because trust is one of Jupiter's significations. So mistrust, this is a square, a mistrust towards governments because governments are represented by Saturn. Effectively, the square is becoming part of these protest movements that we mentioned, of this Mercury retrograde configuration, because of course, a lack of trust is going in that direction, right? So Saturn is also making a square with Mars, the planet of our will, the planet of our strength. And this means that from a practical standpoint, this square is going to block or slow down our project. So keep that in mind. This is not a good moment to get things done. So take your time, right? And given the square of Uranus, it's easy for things to break down under this moon, especially devices such as your phone, your laptop, and so on, right? And what about Venus? Now, Venus is in Virgo, and she would love, to bring this care for efficiency, for productivity, all good Virgo significations, right? But given her very bad condition, we can expect to experience a lack of both efficiency and productivity. And of course, this generates frustration and stress because Venus, usually she's the goddess of pleasure, the goddess of contentment. But being in this very bad shape, we can expect actually the opposite. So focusing on a more psychological perspective, the moon in Aquarius making a square with Uranus again is all about, change, and this on the soul can easily bring a certain amount of rush, I would say. So the general advice here is to slow down, taking your time to do things. And we also want to remember that Mercury retrograde in Leo requires us to process self-esteem issues. So understanding better where our true personal value lies. So again, you can watch my video about it. But in general, we want to be careful when it comes to communication, especially with our partner. Now why our partners? Because we are referring here to the square between Venus and Mars, the heavenly lovers. So as you can see, Venus is making a square with Mars down here. And this configuration, as you can imagine, is unfavorable, both for the feminine in general, so women's rights and so on, but also for romance, being Venus, of course, the goddess of love. So the advice here is to process our issues internally rather than externally, and to wait for a more favorable moment for directly, confronting your partner. And if you feel you have to, well, you want to, keep in mind that, keep in mind what you're saying. Keep in mind that this is not a good moment for communication. So also remember that this Venus is making an opposition with Uranus too. Now, in general, when Saturn is making an opposition with Venus, this is a good moment for pruning the dead branches in a relationship. But you know, sometimes it can lead to prune the whole thing, so to speak. So again, take your time and don't want to solve things like all of a sudden in a rush. Like, take your time. This is the best way to go. So in general, we can say that we really need to take great care of our feelings, because the sky during these 2 weeks is going to challenge us in this sense. Now, from a spiritual point of view, this is clearly a moment of trial, and this is because a great amount of Michael forces were released during the previous new moon. So again, we had the Perseids, which form the sword of Archangel Michael. We had the star Aldebaran involved, all things that we have discussed in the previous video. So now it is the time to make good use of these forces, to fight. This is, of course, an internal fighting that we're talking about here, not an external one. And indeed, we can say that an external fight is already a defeat, a failure of the internal struggle that we are called to overcome. And what is it that is calling us towards this trial? It is the full moon, which is here in the stereo image of Aquarius. And now in astrosophy, this constellation represents the spiritual hierarchy of the cherubim, also called by Steiner the spirit of harmony. And clearly, there is no harmony in this chart. So isn't it ironic? With two T-squares, right? This chart is anything but harmonious. And precisely for this reason, the battlefield here is our soul, shaken up by chaotic impulses of the astral that we are called to harmonize through what? Through a renewed willpower strengthened by this sidereal iron of Archangel Michael. So as always, thanks for watching. If you want to support my work, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell not to miss out on future astrological insights. I am Roberto Corona. See you in the next video.